Christmas is all about fulfilling your wifely duties at my family's home.
No matter how many times I've asked Percy to go back to my parents' place, he's never agreed. To make things worse, he even confiscated my wallet and forcibly took me to his parents' house. Despite all this, I had to get back to my mom and dad's place. Finally, locating the wallet Percy had hidden, I tried to leave his parents' house. But I was caught by his mother, Kyla, and scolded. "I really need to see my dad. He's critically ill." Upon hearing this and seeing my tears, Kyla muttered with a shocked expression, "That's not what my son told me. My name is Jean Healy. I've been married to Percy for 5 years. After meeting through work, initially attracted to his masculine demeanor, I found that he became cold to me after we got married. A handpicked husband, maybe? He constantly orders me around saying
You need to respect your husband.
never a thank you for anything I do, and he started to belittle me as well. At first, I stood up to him, but that led to shouting matches, and not liking confrontation, I eventually gave up. Percy's family home is a main household in a rural area, filled with relatives and guests during holidays and family events. It's non-stop cooking and catering to guests from morning till night whenever we're there. Kyla, who had been running the household, is a stern woman, always finding ways to criticize me. Her husband, Christian, is kind but inconspicuous, but Kyla treats me particularly harshly, which makes her hard for me to deal with. Despite all this, it's a given that we spend family gatherings and Christmas at Percy's parents' home. Percy won't ever let me go to my own family's home. Perhaps he's eager to gain the approval of his parents, Christian and Kyla? That's why I felt he might want to go back to his home even more. During early December, I got an email from my mom. "Jean, it's been a while. Can't make it home for Christmas again?" After some contemplation, I replied, "I'll discuss it with Percy." Later, when he got home, I cautiously broached the subject. "Hey Percy, I would really like to go to my family's home for Christmas this year." As I was tidying up the living room, my husband Percy, who was sitting on the couch watching TV, turned his face towards me with a sour expression.
What are you talking about? We're obviously going to my parents' house for Christmas.
"But Percy, ever since we got married, we have spent every Christmas with your family. I haven't seen my parents since our wedding."
Who cares? You're my wife, so you should work at my parents' house for Christmas, got it?
Annoyed, Percy returned his attention to the TV. Feeling defeated, I sent an email to my mom saying we couldn't make it home for Christmas because we were visiting Percy's parents. My heart sank at her reply. "That's unfortunate, but it can't be helped. I grew up in Burlington and my parents raised me, their only child, with great care. To visit them now would require a 9-hour round trip, which makes a day visit impossible. Ever since we got married, all our holidays, especially Christmas, are spent at Percy's parents' house. I also work, so long vacations are hard to come by, and I haven't been able to visit my parents at all. Marriage is like that. My mom consoled me, but recently, she mentioned that my dad hasn't been well and wanted to see me, which has me concerned. I want to see my parents too, but no matter how many times I bring it up, Percy never agrees to visit my family. Well, it looks like we're going to Percy's parents' house for the holidays again. Nothing I can do about it, I thought, trying to convince myself. Finally, it was the day before Christmas, and while Percy seemed excited about our visit, I was reluctantly packing. Then, just before we were about to leave, I received a call from my mom. "Corey suddenly collapsed. He's in critical condition." Panicked, I quickly spoke to Percy, who was already in the car. "Percy, Dad's collapsed and he's critical. I have to go now."
What? Are you kidding me? We're heading to my parents' house.
"I don't care what you say, I'm going." Overcome with emotion, I reached for my purse to leave, but then noticed something. "What? My wallet's gone?" I was sure I had put it in my bag, but it wasn't there.
Looking for this wallet?
Percy taunted me, waving my wallet in front of my face. "Give it back. My cards and cash are in there. I can't get home without them."
You'll get it back once you have done your wifely duties at my family's Christmas gathering.
I stood there stunned. Percy grabbed my hand, pulled me into the passenger seat, and started driving towards his parents' home. Inside the car, I couldn't stop worrying about my dad. While waiting for a call from Mom, staring at my phone, Next to Percy, who was driving, he suddenly grabbed it.
You can't focus on being a good wife with this distraction. I'll hold on to this too.
I had no choice but to sit in the car Percy was driving, feeling helpless. I'll make a quick appearance and head back home. I need to get to my dad. When we arrived at his parents' home, Kyla shoved an apron at me at the entrance.
Oh, you finally made it. Now, Jean, get to work.
Caught off guard, I reluctantly started helping. As for Percy, he still had my wallet and phone and headed to a family party. I had no choice but to listen to Kyla and work like a servant. All the while, I couldn't stop thinking about my dad. What's happening with Dad? Will I ever see him again? Even when I finally got to bed, I couldn't sleep. Early the next morning, confirming Percy was still asleep, I searched through his belongings. Found it. I finally found my wallet and phone. My phone was flooded with calls from Mom. Panicked, I hurriedly changed and headed for the door. Just as I touched the doorknob, a voice came from behind.
Jean, where do you think you're going?
I turned around to see Kyla, arms crossed and looking stern. At that moment, everything I had been holding back burst forth.
Kyla, my dad is in critical condition. I have to see him.
I spoke earnestly, unable to wipe away my streaming tears.
Dad raised me with so much love, and I haven't seen him since I got married. If this is the end, I at least want to see him one more time. Please let me go.
Kyla's face turned pale, and she began to look flustered.
What are you talking about? That's not what I heard from my son.
Not understanding what Kyla meant, I broke down crying right there. However, Kyla grabbed me and forced me to stand up, looking me dead in the eye.
Jean, snap out of it. We have to go see your father now.
Stunned by words I never expected, Kyla urged me to hurry into the car.
I am taking you to the train station. Move!
In the car, on the way to the station, Kyla started talking to me, who was still in a state of shock.
Jane, Percy told me you are estranged from your family and you can't go home. You spend holidays like Christmas with us.
What? That's not true. I have always wanted to go back home. I'm on good terms with my parents. I was surprised too.
He also said, Jean was raised in a cold home and craves maternal love. She feels loved when disciplined like a real parent would.
I never said anything like that. What the heck? Just then, we arrived at the train station.
I'm sorry for misunderstanding you. We need to talk more, but first, go see your father.
I thanked Kyla, quickly bought a ticket, and boarded the train. A week later, I was back at Percy's family home.
Mom, why the urgent call? What's going on?
Percy walked into the living room and yelled when he saw me.
Jean, where were you during Christmas? Why haven't you been answering my calls?
Sit down,
Kyla snapped, and Percy sat across from where Christian, Kyla, and I were seated.
Why are you sitting there, Jean?
Annoyed, Percy yelled at me again. When I remained silent, Percy turned to Christian and Kyla.
Fine, you want to scold her, right? She neglected her Christmas duties as a wife.
Christian cut him off.
How's your father, Jean?
Thank you. He miraculously recovered, and we had a happy reunion. He's still in the hospital, but should be home soon. Christian let out a sigh of relief, then looked straight at Percy.
Did you know Jean's father was critically ill?
Percy avoided Christian's gaze.
Yeah, I knew. So what? Shouldn't a wife be committed to her husband's family during Christmas?
Enough is enough.
Kyla confronted a stunned Percy.
You took away Jean's phone and wallet and forced her to stay here, didn't you?
Well, that's...
And you lied to us, saying Jean enjoys being disciplined and has a bad relationship with her parents. Explain yourself.
So that's because...
Pressing a flustered Percy, Kyla demanded,
Spit it out.
Then Percy said something nobody saw coming.
Look, my senior at work said that wives who are close to their families are nothing but trouble. The key is to get your wife to obey you and your family right from the start.
I looked at Percy in disbelief, and both Christian and Kyla sighed deeply.
Are you kidding me? When did we ever wish for something like that?
Huh?
Listen, before Jean is our daughter-in-law, she's a person raised with love by her own parents. Do you even get that?
Kyla scolded Percy with watery eyes, and I felt warm inside. Still, Percy didn't seem to get it.
What are you talking about, Mom?
I had my struggles too when I got married and moved to a rural area, and I thought I could spare my son's wife from that.
But, Mom, you obeyed, right? That's what wives do.
True, I had a hard time with my sister-in-law Margaret, but Christian stood up for me and even helped, so I respected him in return. Kyla turned to me as if realizing further words were futile for Percy. I am really sorry, Jean. Please forgive us for our foolish son. Shaking, both Kyla and Kristen lowered their eyes. Kristen, Kyla, thank you for understanding, but I can't take it anymore. I'm divorcing Percy. As I pulled out the filled divorce papers from my bag, Percy's face turned red in disbelief.
What? Jean, what are you saying? Divorce is not a joke.
My feelings won't change no matter what you say.
How dare you speak like that being my wife?
I glared at Percy. You have always looked down on me, never showing any respect. How can I stay married to someone like that? Percy fell silent, stunned by my strong tone.
Hey, are you really going to submit those papers? You're serious about the divorce?
I'm sorry to Kristen and Kyla, but choosing you was a mistake.
Don't decide this on your own. Dad, Mom, are you okay with this?
If it's for Jean's happiness, then it can be helped.
Realizing there was no turning back from my cold demeanor and the looks on Kristen and Kyla's face, Percy hurriedly apologized.
Oh, please, reconsider.
It's too late now. I never want to see you again.
I love you, Jean. Please.
Ignoring Percy's desperate apologies, I left Kristen and Kyla's home. After that, Percy and I finalized our divorce without a hitch. With the help of Kristen and Kyla, I managed to secure almost all of our joint savings, for which I am grateful. I still keep in touch with Kyla, and she's told me that despite multiple interventions, Percy hasn't changed.
At this point, there is no helping him,
Kyla said, revealing that they have cut him off. Percy had to pay me $20,000 in compensation for emotional distress during the divorce, which wiped out his savings. Now, he's living alone in a rundown, one-bedroom apartment with no one willing to help him out. I have given up on expecting any changes from him. I have moved closer to my childhood home and started a new life. Being near my beloved parents, able to see them anytime, is such a joy. From now on, I plan to live my life without being tied down by anyone else.